13 of the most expensive private residences on Earth were built for one purpose: to make sure the world never got a good look inside. Behind their gates sit fortunes larger than the economy of entire small nations, protected by anonymous shell companies, non-disclosure agreements, armed private security, and walls tall enough to block even a helicopter's view. Some changed hands for hundreds of millions of dollars without a single photograph ever reaching the public. These are the 13 private estates the ultra-rich spent fortunes trying to keep hidden from public view. Antilia, this 27-story private tower, rises above Mumbai's skyline, built for one family at a reported cost exceeding $1 billion, making it among the most expensive private homes ever constructed. 6 floors are reserved for parking alone, 3 helipads sit on the roof, and a staff of roughly 600 maintains the residence around the clock. Despite its size, almost no photographs of the interior have ever been published, and the family has consistently declined to grant press access beyond the lobby. 2 decades after construction began, the tower remains one of the most documented yet least seen buildings on the planet. Chateau Louis XIV. This newly built estate outside Paris sold in 2015 for roughly $301 million, a record at the time for a private residence anywhere in the world. The buyer's identity was hidden for years behind a Luxembourg shell company and only surfaced later through an unrelated corruption investigation tied to the Malaysian government. Marble imported from multiple countries, a moat, and a nightclub built beneath the grounds added to a construction bill that reportedly exceeded the sale price of most national monuments. To this day, the chateau sits largely empty, guarded, and almost never open to outsiders. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel so you never miss one of these estates. Via Les Cedres. This 1893 estate on the French Riviera once belonged to the family of Belgium's King Leopold II, who filled its 14-acre grounds with one of Europe's largest private botanical collections. The mansion itself holds more than 100 rooms behind a facade modeled on Versailles, overlooking gardens that took over a century to cultivate. In 2019, the property finally sold for approximately $410 million, making it one of the most expensive single-family homes ever recorded. The buyer, an Indian billionaire, has kept the grounds closed to the public ever since. The One Estate. This modern Bel Air compound was designed to be the most expensive private home ever built in the United States, with an original asking price of $500 million. Construction spanned nearly a decade and included a 4-lane bowling alley, a private nightclub, a 500,000-gallon shark tank, and enough glass to wrap the exterior in an almost seamless mirror. Massive debt eventually forced the property into bankruptcy, and it sold at auction in 2021 for roughly $126 million, a fraction of its original ambition. What was meant to be Los Angeles' ultimate trophy home instead became one of real estate's most public financial collapses. Fairfield Estate. This Hamptons compound was built for billionaire industrialist Ira Rennert on more than 60 acres, with a main house alone exceeding 66,000 square feet, 29 bedrooms, 3 separate pools, a private power plant, and its own water treatment facility were built to make the estate almost entirely self-sufficient behind its dense hedges. Local opposition to its scale led to years of litigation before construction was finally allowed to proceed in full. Even now, most of its 60-plus acres remain invisible from any public road, shielded by the same towering hedges that first triggered the controversy decades ago. If these properties fascinate you, join our community and subscribe to the channel. Updown Court Estate. This English countryside mansion outside London was built in the early 2000s with a price tag exceeding $130 million, once making it Britain's most expensive private home. 58 rooms include an indoor swimming pool, a 2-lane bowling alley, and an underground garage built to hold more than 20 vehicles. Despite years on the market, the estate struggled to find a buyer willing to match its asking price, and ownership details have rarely been disclosed since. Photographs of the property remain scarce, with most images dating back to its original construction more than 2 decades ago. Villa Leopolda. This French Riviera estate was built in the 1930s for the mistress of Belgium's King Leopold II, spread across roughly 19 acres of terraced gardens above the Mediterranean. Reports once linked the property to a rental arrangement involving Bill Gates, though the family that owns it has never confirmed the details publicly. An asking price above $750 million has kept the estate unsold for well over a decade, despite multiple rounds of quiet negotiations with prospective buyers from across the globe. Security around the grounds remains so tight that most residents of the surrounding town have never seen past its gates. Palais Blues Estate. This estate along the French Riviera was designed in the 1970s by architect Antilia for fashion designer Pierre Cardin, built almost entirely from a series of interlocking concrete domes rather than straight walls. More than 28 rooms wind through the structure without a single right angle, connected by curving corridors that follow the shape of the cliffside itself. For decades, the estate was rented out for private events and occasional fashion shows, but public tours remain exceptionally rare. Following Cardin's death, the property's future ownership became the subject of family disputes, keeping its gates closed to nearly everyone. Copper Beech Farm. This Connecticut estate sold in 2014 for approximately $120 million, a record at the time for a single-family home in the United States. 50 acres of waterfront grounds include a private beach, formal gardens, tennis courts, and a main residence built in the early 20th century for a shipping industry family. The buyer, a hedge fund manager, purchased the estate almost entirely out of public view, with the transaction only becoming known after property records were filed. Since the sale, almost no images of the interior have circulated publicly, and the grounds remain closed behind a mile of private shoreline. Chartwell Estate. This Bel Air mansion, often called the Manor, was built for television producer Aaron Spelling's family, growing to more than 56,000 square feet across more than 123 rooms. A bowling alley, a gift-wrapping room, and a wine cellar built to hold thousands of bottles helped make it the largest single-family home in Los Angeles County at the time of its completion. The estate sold in 2019 for approximately $119 million to a European heiress, well below its original asking price of $200 million. Since the sale, the property has remained almost entirely sealed off, with renovation work hidden from public view for years. Owlwood Estate. This 1930s Beverly Hills mansion was designed in an Italian Renaissance style across more than 3 acres of formal gardens, and has passed through a remarkably short list of Hollywood's most private and press-shy owners over nearly a century. Musicians Sonny and Cher once called the estate home, and it later changed hands for a reported $115 million in one of the city's largest residential sales. Tall hedges and a private security detail have kept the grounds almost entirely hidden from the street for decades. Even longtime neighbors describe the estate as more rumor than reality, glimpsed only through gaps in its perimeter walls. Maison de l'Amitié. This Palm Beach oceanfront estate was purchased in 2004 by Donald Trump for roughly $41 million, then resold 4 years later for $95 million to a Russian billionaire who reportedly never once moved in. The 80-room mansion sat largely vacant for years afterward, its grounds maintained but its interior rarely photographed or shown to outsiders. Local reports suggested the buyer intended to demolish the estate entirely and rebuild from scratch, though those plans were repeatedly delayed. To this day, the property remains one of the most expensive homes in Florida that almost no one has ever been allowed to see. Casa Encantata Estate. This Bel Air mansion was built in the 1930s for a banking heiress, later passing through the hands of hotel magnate Conrad Hilton before becoming one of the most secretive estates in Los Angeles. More than 40 rooms sit across nearly 9 acres, protected by hedges so dense that the main house is invisible from the street on every side. The estate sold privately in 2015 for a reported $150 million. Though the buyer's identity was never confirmed publicly. Decades after its construction, most Angelenos who pass its gates still have no idea what lies behind them. From a 27-story tower in Mumbai to a hedge-locked estate in Bel Air, these 13 properties share the same instinct: extraordinary wealth spent making sure the world stayed outside the gates. Antilia proved that even a building visible from miles away can remain almost entirely unseen inside. Casa Encantada proved that decades of secrecy can outlast the very owners who built it. Between them lies a pattern the ultra-rich rarely admit to out loud: the more a home costs, the harder its owners will work and pay to keep it completely out of sight.